So TBA means to be announced, because we don't know yet how far we're going to get in class. We probably aren't going to have any new homework, because I know that people were struggling on last night's homework. So we'll likely review the test and then review last night's homework if there is still time. So you did 5.1, 5.2, and you did 5.3, 5.4, right? So some people, well, there have been 2 assignments so far. There was nothing new last night because there's going to be a combined 5.5, 5.6, but it's not live yet. I have not made it live yet because I wanted to review if there are any questions. Sorry, I misspoke over the 5.3, 5.4, the last homework we just did. Because we haven't really had class to talk about things since then, because we took our tests and everything. So I haven't really gotten to make sure that you guys are comfortable on that. So, on this test, what's really weird is if you look at the top of your paper, you don't have a grade. All I did was provide you feedback. So, I want you to take a moment and determine you are not allowed to write anything on the test except for what grade you would give yourself if you were in my shoes, if you were assessing your progress. Because really, if you disagree with the grade that I give you, you are more than welcome to come and talk with me and make your argument for why you got the grade that you did. So, before the end of class today, you are going to assign yourself either exemplary, which means you have got this 100%, you could teach this the next time. Like, I could just bring you in next year and you could teach this chapter. Mastery is, yeah, I've got it. I understand the concept. I get it. I maybe made a couple mistakes. Hey, Flynn, can I have your attention instead of you digging into my desk, please? Thank you. Mastery means I've got this. I understand. I maybe made a couple mistakes, but small mistakes happen. Mistakes are proof that you're trying. There's a Khan Academy poster that I'm going to get printed and laminated and hung up. But it says, mistakes prove that you are trying. That's exactly, like, when you make a mistake, at least you were trying. If you trip, at least you were running. If you sit there all day, you won't trip, but you never get anywhere. So, progressing just means I need some more practice. That does not mean you failed. That does not mean you did, like, badly. That doesn't mean, oh, woe is me. It just means you need some more practice before you have mastery, comfortable grasp of the concepts. Not progressing means I don't think I'm really progressing through this material. I'm stuck. I'm not able to move forward. I need a lot of practice. Maybe I didn't do my homework. Maybe I didn't pay attention in class. Maybe I didn't use my notes when I should have. Maybe I didn't make a cheat sheet. Maybe I had a really bad day that day. But whatever that reason is, that grade on that assessment would mean that you don't really seem to be showing progress. Like, you probably didn't learn much from my teaching, is what a not progressing would say. So, by the end of class, we're going to give ourselves those grades. But before we do that, I want to go through and make sure you guys understand why you got questions right or wrong. So, getting that out of the danger zone. We're going to go over probably every question. I'm going to move quickly and ask for your guys' help. But by the way, just our little start picture, that if it takes 10,000 hours to develop a skill, to fully develop a skill. Like when you start driving, you have to log like 40 hours driving with your parents or whatever, but you aren't the master driver at that point. So this is just, in general, it would take about, a lot of time. 10,000 hours might be a hyperbole, a number way bigger than what they actually mean. But, so the question is, how many hours or how much time have you clocked today? Yeah, so whatever you're trying to do, and this is not a real question. This is like hypothetical. You're thinking about to yourself. But if I'm trying to learn something, how much time have I invested towards that today, or this week, or this month? And some of you guys did very little to zero math over the summer, and this is showing it to you right now when you get these assessments back and you're seeing, ooh, I need to practice more. I need to pay better attention. I need to take better notes. Jeremiah? Yeah, it's just one of those statements, dude. But are you a master bicyclist that can go off a vert ramp and pull a 900 or do a backflip flare? No. Then you probably could still practice and get better, right? All right. Who can explain number 1? Monica.
Okay, since there are chips with negative value and chips with positive value, they cancel out each other and whatever's left.
Hey, Julian. Monica's talking, and you're talking over her. So we'll wait until you're done. What do you need to communicate that is so important? No, we're all waiting now. What do you need to communicate? So why were you talking? Seems pretty rude to me. Guys, we are over the honeymoon period. You've been in school for 3 weeks now. You are in junior high, middle school, whatever you want to call it. We have high expectations for you, and we are not going to let you be disrespectful to your classmates, to the staff, or to the learning that needs to happen here. You did not master this test. Sorry, you put the spotlight on you. You should be paying attention, and instead you're talking to your peers. Poor choices. Make better choices. Sorry, Monica, before you got interrupted, what were you saying?
There are chips with positive values and chips with negative values.
Yeah, and the tricky part is which one's which? Which ones are positive and which ones are negative?
The chips which are positive are the striped ones.
Yeah, this threw people off, I think. The striped chips are the positives. The open chips, this is close reading, guys, that we talked a lot about this year. The plain chips are the negative ones. So although you would think if it's shaded in that might represent a negative, no. So what do you do then, Monica?
Just saying about what you said, I don't think it really matters as long as when you get your answer, you make sure that you see what chip it is.
Yeah, so how do I get my answer? What do you mean by that?
Since there are positive and negative, the positives and the negatives cancel each other out. So 3 for 3.
If I pair up a positive negative, they cancel. If I pair up a positive negative, they cancel. If I pair up a positive negative, they cancel.
And you're left with a normal chip, which is negative.
So your answer there should be -1. Jeremiah?
What I did to help me with that is I would write the -1 and +1 inside of the
Yeah, that's a really good technique. Nice. So if a problem tells you some information, you could, so Jeremiah just said he wrote -1, -1, -1, -1, and then +1. I know they'll show up in a second. So he wrote all those like negatives and positives in there to help him remember that. So that's a great strategy. Additive inverse of 2.5. I had a lot of good answers and I had a couple like out of left field answers. So if your answer was like had a question mark next to it or something, that is telling you that you have not been paying attention. We've talked about additive inverses almost every day in class. So, Dom?
An additive inverse is a number plus its opposite to get you the answer of the sum of 0.
Yeah, be careful. The additive inverse is just the opposite. So you said the number and its so when we look for an additive inverse, it's just asking what is the opposite of this number. So, this additive inverse would be -2.5. Then you'd have your explanation there. And I accepted a lot of explanations, whether you said they sum to 0, whether you said they are opposites, whether you said you make it the negative, which really making it the negative is just also saying making it the opposite. So a lot of answers were good there. A couple people forgot to give me the explain. I even reminded you guys to notate on your paper that that was a written response. So be careful with those. Expect written responses on every math test this year. We're looking for the distance between P and Q. One's negative, one's positive. With the number line, it is easier. Ellie?
Well, I used the number line to, I started from P and I jumped every unit to Q, and I ended up with 7 units.
Yeah, because when I see the number line, a unit is like a jump or from one mark to the next. I could just count these up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we know that these are 7 units apart. Jeremiah?
For 4, it's A, 3 minus 5 equals -2.
How did you get that?
Because you're on a 3-foot high stool and you jump down to a 5-foot deep.
It's 2 for you jump down 5 feet.
Yeah, you jump down 5 feet into the ground.
So, somehow, we have a stool sitting right next to a hole, and we call ground level 0. So, if this person on this stool jumped only to the ground, how far would that be? 3 feet. And if they jumped from the ground into the hole, how far would that be? 2 feet. So in total, to jump off the stool to the ground, It's a change of 5 feet, which is why I wrote there, think about the start location, 3 positive, then the change, I went down by 5, and then where did I end? 2 below 0. So there, A is your correct answer. So, but I forgot to mention this, if you got any of these wrong, you need to be writing out the correct solution. So everyone get out a sheet of paper right now, unless you got a perfect on this, which is only one person in this class. So everybody should be getting out a piece of paper except for that single person. Because you want to put your corrections on a separate sheet of paper to differentiate what you did the first time and what you did a revision time.
Can you write it like below it?
No.
Can you write it under it?
No. Because you're going to staple that piece of paper with that assessment. No, because to go from progressing to mastery, you will have a separate assignment.
But I mean, everyone, all you need for you're gonna have
I'm not worried about sharing that information. Like we talked about this morning, that like separates people out, gives them labels. Not always a good thing. Can be a good thing. So, does anybody need me to jump back to 1, 2, or 3? Anybody not understand that need to see it again? Who can talk me through 5 and the first thing I need to identify here? Is that a hand or no? Yeah, Jeremiah?
Okay, so simplify is the same thing as solving it, so.
Yeah, any of these words, they just mean solve. They just mean do the math. Sorry, go ahead.
So, using the order of operations, you go into the parentheses first, but since there are no parentheses, well, there are parentheses, but also brackets, so you have to go inside of the brackets and then inside of the brackets.
So this is what I don't like about PEMDAS. PEMDAS should really be GEMDAS, and that sounds really like that's dumb, and no one's going to actually change that. But by parentheses, what they really mean is grouping symbols. Because parentheses, brackets, or absolute values happen up here as well. But you have to do what's inside of it before we can like get out of the grouping symbol. So how do you get out of the grouping symbol?
So, I just solved it. So there is 2 negative symbols right next to each other. So that could be turned into a positive symbol or an adding symbol. So you add 15 to 5, which gets you 20. And since you're done with anything inside of the brackets, basically the brackets are not useful anymore. And you can just go to negative 5 plus 20. And that is 15.
So if you got this wrong and you are rewriting it on your separate sheet of paper, you want to start by rewriting the original problem. So don't start on the first step of the problem. Start by rewriting the original problem. Then write the solution process below it. Okay, so at what point were you going to ask me for a pencil? Okay. Because I noticed it. I was waiting for you to say something. I need this back. You guys want to do it. I'm going to sharpen the pencil.
Can I write what I wrote as the wrong answer too? So that
I mean, you're going to staple that to the original test. So you're going to have them together. So then you can look at what was my mistake, and then you can look at what's the right way. You should write it in a way that will help you remember how to accurately perform this process. Jeremiah?
Can I do the next problem?
Yeah, chill. Up here, if you got this wrong, you might want to notate minus a negative is not the same as this problem. Number 7 is not minus a negative. And I know we're not there yet, but it's a negative minus 12. 12 is just 12. Unless I make it plus negative 12, but then it's still plus a negative, not minus a negative. A lot of people ended up adding 12 and coming back closer to 0 instead of doing what we should have done. So, Jeremiah, how'd you figure out 6 then?
What you do is you take that negative from the 16 and you make it a minus symbol, then you do 28
I can turn addition into subtraction, and I can turn subtraction into addition. So exactly what Jeremiah said. I just have to make sure that if I have one of these symbols, I keep one of them. So I make this 28 minus 16, and this plus still exists. It's just right here, because now my 16 is a positive value. And we just get 12. Think about which is stronger, the positive or the negative. If you had a negative answer there, you're not even thinking about step 1 of the process. Step 1 is identify what will be the sign of my answer by figuring out which is more powerful. And we only have to do that if they're different signs. Nish? 7, yeah. Let me get this captured. Number 7, it got a lot of people. Yeah. It was like a trap door, which I knew because here's where this is tricky. And not that it's a trick problem, but this is tricky. Is this addition? Kind of. Right? Like not yet, but it can be. So Nish, how'd you solve this?
Well, I got this wrong, but then I figured out like what the reason was.
Okay.
I got negative 58.
Okay, but how?
It's basically like 12. It's basically like 46, but then you might get another 12.
Yeah, so I would, if you got this wrong, I would notate that we start negative, and you can abbreviate negative, and then we're told to go down. Subtraction tells me to go down. By how many? 12 more. So we're saying go down 12 from your negative number. You get more negative. So a way that you could show this is if you start at 0 and then you go to negative 48, then we're told to go down 12 more, and we land exactly where Anish said, at negative 58. I could also change this into addition. I could make this negative 46 plus a negative 12. I still have my negative on the 46. I still have my minus or my negative or whatever you want to call it on the 12. Now it's addition, and I have the same sign. Same sign addition. You save the sign and sum the values. Any questions on this one? It caught a lot of people. So know that on the Progressing to Mastery, it's a shorter assessment. So this is clear before I forget to tell you, because we got like 20 minutes left. To go from Progressing to Mastery, which, by the way, your grade that you put on your test is not necessarily the grade you get. I want to see what you give yourself, and then I will give you a grade also. Normally, I just give you a feedback grade, and then we go from there. But I'm just curious, as we are learning about mastery and like what does it mean to master something, especially in math. So to go from Progressing to Mastery, you turn in revisions, which we're doing together right now, which a lot of times we do together, or I like give you time in groups or whatever. And like revisions count for even if you didn't get something done, if you didn't get it answered, you just answer it. Since we're doing it all together, you just write out the answer. It doesn't matter that I gave it to you, you just write it out. Then there's a separate assignment to go from Progressing to Mastery, normally 10 or 12 questions that are like the type of questions that people miss. So number 7, expect a problem exactly like that on the Progressing to Mastery. It'll have different numbers, but starting at a negative and subtracting caught a lot of people, so that's going to be on the Progressing to Mastery. So make sure that right now, if you have questions, you're asking me. Anybody have questions on those first 7 problems? Yeah. Yeah, we're going to do every single question. So 8, one of the big things that I kept writing on people's paper, I just kept underlining that. Why do you think I had to underline length on so many papers? What do you think?
Because distance can't be negative.
Distance or length must be positive. So if you gave a negative answer, I would write must be positive here. Length cannot be negative. I cannot go a negative 4 feet. I can go 4 feet in a negative direction, like the opposite direction that I want to go, but you're not traveling a negative distance. That's like saying eat negative 3 cookies. What?
You're already eating negative.
No, but you're eating positive. Those cookies, when they exist, have a positive value.
You just have to eat food and you just have to bark them
Gross.
You ate 0.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't be eating -3. You'd be throwing up +3. So it's still positive, but it's going in the negative direction. But it's still 3 cookies.
Stop cheating.
I'm gonna win this argument. So I mean, we can either end now. So who was Dom? Who was helping me? Okay. What? So we know it must be positive. Where do we go from there?
So, you could do a number line.
Could do a number line, sure. And I drew this on some people's papers. I said, hey, 0 is here, -1 is there, and -9 is here. And on some of them, I even put the positive side of the number line because this distance here will be exactly the same as the distance if you were on the positive side. So if you were on the positive side, what's the distance between 9 and 1? 8. If you're on the negative side, what's the distance between -1 and -9? 8. It's the same thing. Now, the other way we can do this, the formula way that you have in your notes, uses what? What special symbol do we use when finding length or distance? Yeah, absolute value. So if we set that up, we could do the subtraction in whichever order I want to because it doesn't matter. But this becomes -9 plus 1, which, guys, remember, we do not apply the absolute value until we've combined everything possible. -9 plus 1 becomes -8, but the absolute value of -8 is 8. Jeremiah?
All it really is just make -9 a positive and then make 1 a positive.
If you're using that method of them just being same sign, because they're the same sign, they're on the same side of the number line. If you don't have to cross over 0, you're really just looking for the difference between them. And you just have, really, you could just do this subtraction and just remember length must be positive and then just make your answer positive. But you got to remember that stuff, that length and distance can't be negative. Because a lot of people that gave me the wrong answer there gave me -8. Well, okay, 8 is right, but it can't be negative.
I did 10.
You combined them. Let me clear. Come on, there you go. So, likewise, 9 is the same thing, except if I drew a number line on your paper for 9, I drew it like this, and I put a question mark here and a question mark there. Who can explain why you think I would have drawn something like that? And if I didn't draw it on your paper, or just if you missed this, I would draw this if I was you. It will help you think through this process. Sean, is that a hand or are you stretching? Okay, why do you think I drew this like this?
To show like -8 the distance from 0, so then it would be 8, and then from the distance from 12 to 0, 12, and then you would add them up.
Hey people, welcome to my math classroom. There are posters and things that you are allowed to use, and it is not cheating. So you could have looked at this poster in class and said, well, if I start at -8 and I have to go to 12, and those of you who told me that the answer is 4, this sure looks a lot further than 4.
It's 4.
So I'm not laughing at you. I'm just saying, guys, think. Turn on your brain and think about these problems. If I'm going from the negative side of the number line all the way up to +12, come on. We know that's got to be bigger. So this distance from 8 to 0, 8. And I know it's -8, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to 0, so I can think of it like positive. Distance from 12 to 0 is 12. So then the distance all the way is the sum of those, and is 20. Now I could again set up the math and do the absolute value of 12 minus the -8. That becomes absolute value of 12 plus 8 because minus the negative. And that just becomes 20. So either way that you solve it, whether you use the number line or the absolute value, you're going to get the same thing. Huh? I don't know if that's a life hack.
Math hack.
Well, it technically would be a life hack if you use math and life.
Oh, can I explain this?
Sure, Evie, thank you.
It's easy. So,
Don't use the word easy. That is relative.
It's simple, not hard for you.
it was not hard.
Okay.
So, since you have the subtraction sign right next to the negative sign, you can make it
above this if you didn't do it or if I didn't do it, which on a lot of your papers I did do it. Now, that is not the same as when there's a number between them. This parentheses doesn't count because it's just a grouping symbol. I'm allowed to kind of ignore it. It's just there to pretty up the -7 so we don't get confused. So now that becomes what, Evie?
15 plus 7.
15 plus 7. What is 15 plus 7?
22.
Now it's absolute value, so then I make it negative, right? No, I had a couple people, and I don't know where this idea came from. They told me that absolute value flips the sign. No! Absolute value makes anything positive. So if it starts positive, it stays positive. So here, the absolute value did nothing. And this would be the distance between a positive 15 and a -7. Would be 22 units apart. Awesome.
Minus a negative is plus a positive.
Make your symbol that minus a negative becomes a plus, then rewrite everything else. So I still have -6, and I still have 19, because that negative got used. That minus got used. The only negative I have left is the one attached to the 6. Now, I have a battle going on. Battle Royale, Rock'em Sock'em Robots, if you ever played that game.
Oh yeah.
So, Monica, what now?
19 has a greater value, so it's going to be positive because 19 is positive.
Yeah.
And then you just need to find the difference.
I just really need to find the difference because they have different signs. The other thing I could do, I love everything you said, but the other thing I could do is apply what property?
The absolute value.
Ooh, not yet. What would let me change order? Commutative, right? So I can make this 19 plus -6, which I know plus a negative is really subtraction. I could really just make it absolute value of 13, which is 13. Or what Monica had said, think about the fight, which one is stronger, and then how much stronger.
Yeah.
It's stronger by 13. The negative only has a strength of 6. The positive has a strength of 19. Are you trying to do the next one, Jeremiah? Now this one, I knew going into it, was crafty. Jeremiah, what'd you do?
I got 5 4.
Okay, so not what did you get, what did you do?
I did.
Is this addition?
No.
Not quite. Could we make it addition?
Yes.
That will make my life easier. So if I make this, and by the way, does this negative need to be on top?
Nope.
It doesn't matter where it is. So I rewrite this as -3/7 plus, but I still need to use that. So this will be -7. Yeah, sorry. My brain was ahead of itself.
I forgot how I got the answer.
So now I've got a negative fraction plus a negative fraction. So I start by going to my negative, then I'm told to go down further. So I'm going to get a bigger negative. But then it will become positive because of the absolute value. So since these are going the same direction, they have the same sign, Andrew? Yes, same signs get summed, and we save the sign. So when I sum these, I get 10, but I have to bring that negative with me. I get absolute value of -10/8. Now I know that absolute value is going to make this positive, so I get just positive 10/8. And then we're not done until... Ooh, not... Well, this is kind of simplifying, but starts with an R. Okay, that or reduce. We have to... Even if you just make this a mixed number and make it 1 and 2/8, I still wrote on your paper, you have to reduce. So I didn't count it as wrong. Later in the year, I will. I will take half a point off. You've got to reduce. So if you did not reduce, please make a note of that you need to reduce. Questions on that one? The fraction ones were where people started to have more troubles. Now 13, I'm just going to walk through it. And actually 13, guys, is way easier than you think it is. Some people had some really good processes and really good explanations for this, but a few of you, your explanation didn't quite match your process or vice versa. Your process was like, one of them was messed up. So like check, and if there's a question mark, that just means it didn't totally make sense. So, I should have kept track of the rotation. Julian?
So first you have to find a common denominator with the two mixed numbers.
Yeah, now, and this is the moment of choice. You can start by making it improper, but you'll work with smaller numbers if you do your denominators first. Either way is right. You can do improper first, or you can do denominators first. So Julian chooses to do denominators. What do you want your denominator to be? Yeah, 6. So and here's why I normally do my improper first. If you do denominators first, sorry, that's thirds right now. If you do denominators first, you have to remember that when you multiply, you do nothing to the whole value. So this becomes -8 stays 8, but now it's 4/6. Any questions on how I got my common denominators? I could have also first made it improper, so 8 times 3 gives me 24, plus 2 is 26, so I would have gotten 26 thirds, and then make that into sixths by doubling the top, and I would have gotten 52 sixths, which is the same thing. When I make this improper, I get -52 sixths. Jeremiah? What's weird?
I got 14 right, but 13 wrong.
I know. Because the process you had written out was the correct method, but you made some math errors. So now that I know what my -8 2/3 actually is, rewrite everything -52 sixths. And because we like impropers better, make this improper. 4 times 6 is 24, plus 1 gives me 25. I have addition. Do I have same signs or different signs? Different signs. So we have to do the difference. Some of you did everything right, you just forgot your negative.
I'm so mad.
Yeah.
So you got to here, and you totally forgot that the negative was stronger. So you got 27/6, and then you maybe even gave me the 3.5, 4.5, but you forgot that there's a negative out here, so there's got to be a negative here. It becomes -4 3/6, which some of you forgot to reduce that, and this becomes -4.5. Any questions on how I did that?
Oh man.
It's not clear, it's just capturing. Give it a second.
Oh.
It blinks. I don't know, it's weird. So 14 is just the written response. We're not going to cover that. If you do not know that process, come see me. We'll talk it through together. This one caught a lot of people. And it was mainly math errors or the fact that you thought it was one of the ones that you'd seen before and it was actually slightly different, so be careful. All because you see the same denominators does not mean that it's the exact same problem. On this type of problem, I would suggest going improper first, but then you get bigger numbers, but it's all what's easier for you. Jeremiah, I'm just going to talk through this. We're starting to run out of time. So if I were solving this, and I'm going to write out the original, so that if you guys got this wrong and you're doing this on your revision paper, you want to write out the original. Then I make them both improper. So 14 plus 2 is 16/7. Plus the -5 times 4 is 20, so I get 23/4. Now I see that my denominator, can my 7 become 4? Can my 4 become 7? No. So the easiest thing to do is just multiply by the other denominator, which 7 times 4 will be the same thing as 4 times 7. So now these get in the weird form of 64/7. My numbers get big here. -161, sorry, not sevenths. That is 28ths. I have addition. Do I have same signs or different signs? Different. Which different signs tells me to find the difference. So 161 minus 64 gives me 97. But the negative is more powerful. So this is really going to end up being a negative 97/28, which if you left that, I was fine with it being left improper. Or you take it to negative 3 and 13/28 when you make it into a mixed number again.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you left it improper, so this would work, or this would work. Unless I tell you a specific form to put it in, I'll accept either. And I even accepted unreduced fractions this time, but later in the year I'll want everything reduced because it's not right until it's reduced.
you mean later, like 2 months from now?
Later, probably a month from now. So now, our last problem that we're really going to review here, because most of us got the squirrel problem, we might have time to do it. But the highest elevation in the country occurs on a mountain at 1,452 feet. It's a very steep mountain.
It's the true fact.
No. At least if it is, I don't know the country. The lowest point occurs in some pit where they throw all the bad kids at negative 35 meters. If you were to skydive off of the mountain and land on the ground, not in the pit, on the ground, at the ocean, on the beach, at sea level, because we always refer to sea level as 0, how far would you travel? Sean? Now, this is still 100 feet, so you might be able to get a parachute out in that amount of time. How far would you travel if you went from ground level to the bottom of that pit, Andrew? Yeah, we go another 35, which by the way, these are meters, not feet. So in total, if I went 1452 and then I went another 35, I have to really add them together, and I get 1,487 meters. I need your mastery with whatever grade you think you would give yourself, your revisions stapled to it, and turn back in, please. Yeah, on the top of your mastery, either by your name or by your date, just write it and circle it, whatever letter grade you give yourself. Exemplary, mastery, progressing, or not progressing.
For the new
So,
grade?
for what grade you would give yourself, not at the original test that you had gotten back. What would you have given yourself? Yeah, you just misspelled it. That's not a math thing. You just misspelled there. A lot of you guys do that. There, and there.